Hey everybody, Rock and Roll Confessional. It's CW, and over there is
Rita Wild.
Oh, you're so much sweeter and nicer than like when you say your name. That's so nice. You're so professional. I'm just like blah 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 blah.
What do you want, man?
I'm so like not professional.
Yes, you are.
All right. We got another great show, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true. We do. Hello. Few metal bands have achieved Iron Maiden's enduring success across popularity, musical integrity, and live performance power. Daniel Bukszpan's new book, Iron Maiden at 50, captures this extraordinary 5-decade journey in full. Equal parts biography and anniversary tribute, the book chronicles Maiden from inception to global metal juggernaut via 50 pivotal moments that shaped the band's influence and legacy. The story is told in depth via the landmark albums, historic tours, lineup shifts, and behind-the-scenes decisions throughout the decades.
Daniel's book is more than a timeline. It's a deep dive into Maiden's unmatched drive, evolution, and artistic conviction. From pub gigs to packed stadiums across 6 continents, Iron Maiden at 50 explores how a working-class band from London became one of the most influential forces in metal music. So crank up your favorite Maiden tune and check out our interview with author Daniel Bukszpan.
Well, nice of you to join us again, Daniel Bukszpan.
Very happy to be back. Very nice to see you guys again.
You
Very
too,
happy.
Daniel.
And you got another new book, and this time it's Iron Maiden at 50. One of the world's greatest heavy metal bands, if you're, separating genres and stuff like that. Are you surprised with their longevity?
No, to be honest with you, because they really put in the work, and they really, they did it the right way. They have just always toured, always put product out there, and have always made sure that every time they perform, it's like the best show you've ever seen. And they've had just a consistent commitment to quality the entire time. And it's kind of funny because I was talking to someone about this yesterday. The music that we know the best from them, and that's the most popular, is from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But really, they're more popular now than ever, I would argue, because they're now just, they're completely mainstream. They play on every continent, where it was a little more of an underground thing still a little bit in the 80s. So even though, all that stuff, that's the classic era and all that sort of thing, in a way, they're much more popular now than they were then. And to me, it's just all a product of they just kept going. They just stuck with it, and they never stopped. And there's a lot to be said for that. Just kind of doing it the old-fashioned way and just working for it. And they did it the entire time. Also, it's been all 50 years. There was no 10-year hiatus. There was no we broke up for a while. None of it. They just kept going the whole time. And there are a lot of bands, legacy artists, who will come out and say it's the 50th anniversary tour. Come see us. And in reality, they have not played together in 30 years or something like that. And so they're trying to grandfather themselves in at the end to being this long-standing institution. But Iron Maiden have the perfect attendance record and everything. They always showed up.
And they also stepped out of the box of where they toured, the countries they toured. They were the first to step into so many different countries where their music was really underground, wasn't even being sold.
Or like Croatia.
Yeah, they're in a good situation now for that, because their lead singer is a licensed commercial airline pilot. So, they can go where they want. But prior to that, like in the 80s, when that was not the case, like when they went to Poland and were really the first Western heavy metal band to go behind the Iron Curtain like that, there was no plane. and it was kind of hard to get into the country, and like they really had to kind of work to make that happen. I think it was 1984 when they played there. And I mean, I'm sure you guys remember, it was very much still the Cold War, and for a Western band to go there was considered like there's something maybe a little wrong with these people that they would do that. But they talked to Steve Harris at the time, and his whole thing was like, if this turns out that because we came here, other bands will come here, great. We see what we're doing is just giving kids a good time with our music. And, I think that's really still, kind of the organizing principle behind, their choice, because they play in a lot of places where a lot of bands just won't go. If you want to play in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, if you're a Western band, that's really, there's a lot of moving parts to that. And it's very expensive. And so a lot of Western bands just won't do it because they figure the trade-off, it's just not worth it. These guys always went, and they opened up a lot of markets that now people go to. And again, I hit the word allegedly really hard when I wrote about this in the book. But allegedly, at one point, like 10, 15 years ago, they looked up, okay, what countries have the most people downloading our music illegally? And when they isolated those places, we went, they were like, that's where we're touring.
Wow.
Which was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because instead of like, okay, we're going to sue the entire country of Brazil, it was no, these guys actually don't mind breaking the law, with technology, to get a copy of Power Slave. Clearly, they want our music, so we will go there. It's very smart. There are other people in the music industry who would sue you for downloading their music, but instead these guys are looking at it, I think rightly, as like, no, that's an opportunity. The fans are telling us something with that, and we're listening. That's a big deal, and that's I'm not sure anyone else has done it that way either. But again, I must hit the word again, allegedly.
Where did you get your alleged information?
The alleged information came from Rolling Stone, I believe.
Okay.
But I still said allegedly. Like, I used to work in news,
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
so I mean, once you're like, allegedly,
Yeah.
this word is going to let me get away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hit it pretty hard, even just in my daily life. Like, well, allegedly, I want Mexican food, or allegedly, it allows you to talk about something that may have happened. It's possible. And they certainly had the technology to do that at the time too. So yeah, and in my opinion, that's brilliant. It's kind of like, finding out, okay, so which garbage can do the hobos eat out of? And we're going to open a restaurant there. Kind of like that.
Back then, I understand. I think the bands made a lot more money off their music. Now you look at it and it's like, it's all about touring, and maybe they were foreseeing the future.
I mean, I think, well, radio would not play them. And when radio will not play you, you have to tour. And that's just how it is. And, and they did some absolutely punishing touring, really for their entire career. And that really was how they got across. And now it's kind of how they survive, living in the Spotify era where you don't really make money off record sales anymore. Although I would argue that they make money off record sales because they have fans who still want to buy the physical product because they want their shiny object with Eddie the mascot on it, and you open it and there's all the pictures and lyric sheet. They still want that experience. Because of Spotify, stuff like Iron Maiden is getting, new people are able to come to it and hear it for the first time and all that. But once people become fans, and the kind of fans that Iron Maiden attracts, they want the full deluxe package, the extra large, big gulp, give me everything you got kind of a thing. And they, they give that to the audience. They understand what their audience wants. Although I will say they're going to have a hell of a time getting people to put down their phones at concerts. I can see that being the thing that may really cause them problems. But I don't know if you know or not, but on this tour that they're on right now, their manager, Ron Smallwood, put out an announcement who's like, please leave your phone in your pocket during the concert. So we can all, be present and enjoy the music
Yeah.
like a concert was for as long as we can remember.
Yeah.
And everyone's paying. I don't know what a concert ticket costs at this point, with the Ticketmaster fee and everything. But let's say it's $300, and you're spending the whole time looking at your phone. It's like, why did you come here? Why
Oh,
why
yeah.
why did you show up? You can do that at home.
Jack White did that for his show, but he had those pouches that you have to lock them into it.
Yonder pouches, I believe they're called.
And
Yeah,
get
they're
it
like
back
made out
after.
of the scuba diving material, and they magnetically lock, and so you have to put it in there, lock it, and then go in with it, and then unlock it when you come out.
Wow, people must have the worst case of nomophobia whenever that happens. If you are familiar, I just learned that term recently, and I didn't realize it was an actual phobia. But people can't be without their phones anymore.
And what's it
So
called again?
nomophobia,
Yeah.
NOMO phobia, like nomophone.
Yeah.
For,
No, uh, one thing in reading the book, it was kind of interesting because usually a band that has the longevity of, what Iron Maiden has right now, they don't go through as many singers. So they've had 3 different lead singers, and a lot of other different players that, I was surprised that they've been in and out of, but it's the brand mostly that sells, I guess.
well, they've got Eddie, the mascot.
Eddie.
And
Yeah.
that's, the mighty Dina Weinstein, sociologist, who's a very well-known person in heavy metal circles and was kind enough to give me some comments for the book, said that, having Eddie as the mascot had a lot to do with their longevity because whatever happened with the lineup, there was always Eddie. So they could go through, massive turnover. And, you could argue that Bruce Dickinson, the singer, is the closest thing they have to sort of like a Jim Morrison figure
Yep.
or something, who really like stands for the band and all that. But he was gone for a couple of albums. So the fact that they had Eddie, same as always, and the same logo, that helped them quite a bit. And I really have a hard time thinking of any other artist whose logo is as recognizable as
Yeah.
that. Maybe the Rolling Stones,
The
lips and
tongue.
tongue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, there's very little out there like that really, is instantly recognizable the minute you see it. And you're like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
And it also was really helpful when they would release a new record because you would walk into the record store and you could see it like, from like, yards away because there's Eddie. There he is, hello, we spot you in the crowd. That was brilliant on their part. And I don't think, when they designed the logo, and when they designed the mascot, they were like, that's it. We're good. Next
Yeah.
50 years taken care of. I don't think any of these decisions that they made that ended up really contributing to their success and their longevity were ever really ever originated as like, we're going to do this to guarantee our longevity. If we do this, then in 30 years, it will pay off. I don't think they ever,
Yeah.
they did think long term, and they did have certain principles about how they conducted the band that remained consistent the whole time. But I think Steve Harris was 19 when he founded the band. And when you're 19, you're just not
On Christmas
making
Day, I love
decisions
that.
based on will this still be here in 50 years. You just don't think that way.
Yeah.
But somehow, for him, it worked. And they've gone through a lot of things that would really like topple other bands, but for whatever reason, they were able to get through it. And I think a lot of the credit for that goes to Steve Harris because he had just absolute undying faith in the band and would just that's the hill he's going to die on,
Yeah.
And a lot of musicians don't have that. A lot of musicians don't have like, no, this is what we're doing. We have absolute faith in what we're doing. We are willing to risk alienating fans with some of our stylistic changes here and there, and that's what we're doing. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Very few bands come at you with that kind of attitude, and those that do rarely get anything out of it, because that's kind of an arrogant attitude to have, But that's how they were just always about 100% belief in what they were doing, and doing whatever it took to make it happen. And for them, it ended up being a lot of good decisions, but I don't know that they knew that going into it.
I think it also helped having Rod Smallwood for as long. I remember meeting him like at 84, and then I was surprised that he's still the manager of the band. So
He
he
made a
had
lot
that
of
vision.
really good decisions that really paid off for them.
Yeah.
Most of us would be lucky to have such an individual in our corner for anything.
Yeah.
And it just somehow, again, it was just one of those things. When they took him on, I really doubt any of them were like, well, we've got our manager for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
But he really brought the goods,
Yeah.
and he advised them very well. Initially, they put out this demo tape, the Soundhouse tapes, that you could only get through mail order. And they ended up selling out of 5,000 copies of it really fast, because they had a really strong local fan base at that point.
This was
And
their first single, right?
it was even before that. It was
Yeah.
they did the whole thing themselves.
Yeah.
And Virgin, I believe, approached them and said, press, 20,000 more copies of that tape. We will sell it. And they decided no, because that was a special thing for the fans who had been there since the beginning. And almost any person giving you business advice would be like, no, take it, get the 20,000 copies, do it. But they had too much integrity, which is a word we don't hear a lot when talking about a lot of musical artists. And they really, right from the beginning, were like, no, it's about the fans. It's about our most diehard fans, and the decisions that we make, like, that's what we're going to prioritize, is the people who have really stuck with us. And that's a big deal. You really don't hear about that happening very often,
Mm.
It's usually sell more.
Yeah. Why do you think, Daniel, that it took so long for Iron Maiden to hit the U.S. and they were so popular in Europe? I mean, it wasn't till maybe Number of the Beast and then Power Slave really, I think, is what really put them on the map here.
MTV, basically. I kind of think, as much as I hate to give them credit for anything, no, I mean, that was what broke them wide open here. In Europe, the sense I get for how it was at the time was that MTV just did not have the type of reach that it had here, and it was very much an American thing. The way I first heard them was through MTV, where if you're in the UK or in Europe or something, like, just the culture is different. It certainly was different back then. I'm not even sure that they had MTV in Europe right away either. So it was a much more localized thing. But it was easy, because these were smaller territories. It was maybe a little easier to get the word out. America is 350 million people, all crammed onto this one piece of the continent, and it's just hard, I think, for bands from across the pond to break here without MTV. I don't know how they're doing it now, since MTV stopped having music like 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But no, at the time, that made all the difference, and it was the same for a lot of heavy metal. That Quiet Riot were the first heavy metal band to get a #1 record in the United States, and I can remember vividly the video for "Come On, Feel the Noise" being on like 10 times a day.
Oh God, yeah,
more.
at least.
Yeah, We're Not Gonna Take It 20 times a day. It was just once they got into that pipeline, it was pretty constant. And, Maiden benefited from that, but at the same time, they were not like the videos and the music were not as goofy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so they even though they benefited from MTV and they were on MTV, I never considered them an MTV band. They
Right.
just happened to be able to use that also. For those guys like Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister, I think having videos, getting famous through MTV was just a much more like sort of short-lived burst, as opposed to like, no, we're touring, we're going to keep doing it. We're doing this for the next 20 years. We don't care how long it takes. And I'm not saying either one of those bands were like, oh, we'll just get a video, it'll be fine. Because when you hear them talk about it, like if you hear Dee Snider talk about it, he was very aware that it was like, no, we were this like really nasty kind of local band for a long time, and then MTV came along, and it was like a wrecking ball through everything.
Yeah.
A very successful wrecking ball at first, but the whole, all their credibility that they had built up over the years was kind of destroyed by that. And again, that just never happened with Iron Maiden. I think partially because it's so apparent when you watch them that these guys are for real and completely authentic. And again, I'm not saying Dee Snider is inauthentic. I'm not saying that, but the sense you got watching the video for "I Want to Rock" was just different from the feeling you got from the video from "The Trooper" or the video for "Number of the Beast." Just the energy was different, the presentation was different.
And they had consistency. I mean, they weren't trying to be the hip, different thing to get the video.
No, not at all.
They were just themselves the whole time, and they made a video, and so be it. But we don't need the naked girls or the fancy cars and things. Let's just put Eddie in it with the music, and we're good.
And old movie footage of cowboys and Indians also. Yeah. I'm sorry, indigenous people. I apologize. Yeah.
Well, you're one of them. Can't you say what you want?
I can't say I'm an indigenous person.
Oh, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
I was born here, so
there you go.
Yeah.
You are.
Okay. No, but I mean, even that, when you look at that video, that's a little goofy, but in a different, like it's not comedy the way the Twisted Sister videos were broadly comic. There was almost like a Three Stooges type vibe to it. And that was absent on what Iron Maiden did, even though there was humor. There was cheek to a certain extent, but it wasn't comedy. And I think there was that distinction too. I think that was important. But basically MTV, that's the answer in my opinion.
And then I think Bruce is a big piece of the glue. I mean, when Blaze Bayley, I don't want to say filled in, took over as lead vocals after Bruce left for a few years, they weren't as successful. And then they decided to bring Bruce back, and they started going up again.
My take on that, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, is that all of the blame for that, for when there was a downturn, was because in the 1990s, heavy metal entirely, the whole genre experienced a downturn. And if you look at, big bands like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath, who had replacement singers during that time, and those records didn't sell well either. I was in heavy metal bands at the time, and I remember it was just not hip. Nobody, it was just not happening at the time. And I know it was really difficult for those bands, especially after they had, really climbed the mountain, so to speak. Blaze Bayley said, he was like, I loved it. I loved being an Iron Maiden. I loved every minute of it. But the other guys who had already really paid their dues and had been on this kind of long journey to the top, really had a hard time with the sort of demotion that came in the 90s. And, Judas Priest, they were playing little clubs. Black Sabbath were playing clubs. And then at, 1999, 2000, all the bands reunited. And to me, just the way I observed it, it was like, okay, 90s, it's not hip. Now comes the next decade, it's hip again, which you guys, as you know, who have certainly seen this happen numerous times, every decade. And I believe Barry Gibb said this, when the next decade starts, the music industry says to you, okay, you who have been popular for the last 10 years, step to the left. We are now having new people come in. And those kinds of cycles and waves are just totally normal in the music industry. But at the time when you're going through it and you're Iron Maiden, but you're playing much smaller clubs, I mean, it looks very much like we are in decline and this will only get worse. And this may be the end of it. But I mean, I remember being in a record store in 2000 and they were playing the first Rob Halford solo album for his band Halford. And it was like, he was back to shrieking and had all the harmonized guitars and all that. And I was like, oh, I guess heavy metal is okay again. People will now admit again that they listen to this stuff. And it was right about then that Bruce came back and Ozzy Osbourne came back to Black Sabbath. So it's cyclical.
Right.
And the music industry is ridiculously fickle. And they will love you. They will love you for 10 years and then get out.
Yeah.
You're not hip. You seem to have wrinkles here.
I have a sidebar question for you.
Please.
In 2030, what do you think the shift in the music world will be? If you were to predict it.
Oh, I can't predict those things. And when I do make predictions, they're like not just wrong, but woefully wrong.
Well, just you could say allegedly.
I can't say allegedly, although that refers to things that happened in the past. If they're still together, and I see no reason why they wouldn't be, I believe Iron Maiden in 2030 will be in a stadium somewhere, keeping it going. And I think that they will just keep going for as long as they can. The only reason Nico McBrain is not playing with them right now at this minute is because he had a stroke. Yeah. If that had not happened, he would be with them right now. Paul Di'Anno, God rest his soul, there were times he was performing in a wheelchair. These guys are lifers. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Mm. And this is what they want to do with their lives, even to the point of I'm, medically not capable anymore of doing what I used to do, but I'm going to just crawl on stage anyway. Yeah, and we saw that with the great Ozzy Osbourne, who I believe would not allow himself to die without playing one last concert. I think just lifer again, and the fact that he died so soon after, it says like everything played out there the way it was supposed to. But these guys are the same, and they will be up there for as long as they possibly can, as long as their bodies will allow them to do it. And 2030 is just 5 years off. So easily it's possible they'll still be there. Yeah. In terms of like larger trends in the music bit, I have no idea. Yeah. And most of what's out there now that's new confuses me, makes me feel very old, and I don't get it.
Or, AI stuff too. It's like, is it going to be all AI?
And again, I get in a lot of trouble with this. I believe none of it is going to be AI. Because I don't believe AI is capable of making music that people really respond to in a strong way. Because what we respond to in music is the flaws. What we respond to in art is the idiosyncrasies of the artist. Looking at Iron Maiden, no one else really sounds like that. People copy them, but they really bring their own thing that an AI can't invent on its own. And the AI cannot bring the energy. The AI cannot write an 18-minute song about Zeppelins, but Iron Maiden can. AI is really, if you want to make like ambient music for the background while you're vacuuming, AI is great for that. But if you've ever used ChatGPT, which I have, and all it produces is drivel, a lot of which is also factually inaccurate, AI is actually extremely limited, and there's a lot it cannot do. If it starts listening to music and buying music, then we've got a problem. But no, I mean, I heard that the Velvet Sunset, I think they're called. They were
Yeah.
completely AI. Yeah, a friend of mine sent it to me. I didn't even know it was AI, and I listened to a couple of songs, and I'm like, this is very mediocre and
Yeah.
uninteresting, and I shut it off. And then he told me it's AI, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
AI will not, in my view, it will not create anything that people will feel compelled to buy in a way of like, this speaks to me. I could listen to this song over and over again. I love this. I don't see it. I mean, again, my predictions, you don't want to bet a dollar on any of those, but I'm not seeing it. And if you've ever, I mean, it's the same as if you've read anything that ChatGPT writes, you can tell it's AI. And there are even little tells in the text in how it writes, where people are detecting that. And they're like, oh, I can tell it's AI because it's using these M dashes. It's saying certain types of repetitive phrases over and over again. And also, Mick Jagger is alive, unlike what ChatGPT told me once that Mick Jagger is dead.
Wow.
So it's very limited.
It's
And
garbage in, garbage out. It's
I'm
what
not
goes
sure
in.
who fed them the garbage.
Yeah.
So it's just garbage out, I think.
But it feeds what it's told. So it depends who's putting the information in.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for research. I will say that. It can
Yeah.
point you in the right direction if you're researching a book, for example. But you better check every statement that it makes on Google from a few different sources to make sure it's true. I'm working on a book right now about the big four, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax.
Okay.
And it produced this whole like long, really fantastic quote from Dave Mustaine that I was like, wow, that's a great quote. I would love to use that. And I researched it and he never said it. So
So
that's a
you said
problem.
it. Yeah.
No, I couldn't
We'll
use
take
it because
claim for it.
he never said it and I don't want to get sued, you know? But that's the thing is yes, there will be AI music in 5 years, but I don't know that that means people will respond to it or
Yeah.
want it. You know, it'll be there because it's cheap, but I don't see people responding to it the way they respond to Iron Maiden. I don't know if you've ever seen them play, but
Oh,
people
yeah.
just go completely nuts.
I saw 82 in Chicago at I forget what they call it, Chicago Fest or whatever. So that was like 82. And so it was like, oh my God, that was the first time I saw Eddie,
Yeah.
like on the stage. It was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And then like 1984, I think they did 4 nights at the Long Beach Arena and
Oh yeah. And they recorded that
the
for
Power
Life After
Slave.
Death.
Yeah. That's when I
Yeah.
met like Rod
We
Smallwood
were
and all
both
those.
there.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
like, I forget how many, if I saw all four, but it's just like my hearing was never the same.
So we used to at the radio station at KLOS, we used to have these stickers that were like a racetrack, and they were colored. And then in the middle, we would pop in the band's name, and then we would hand them out at the concerts. And it was the only time where I was worried for my life that I was going to get completely mauled. And I literally took the stack of stickers I had as too many
yeah.
people were rushing me at once, and just had to throw them out to get away from it. But yeah, but I mean, it's not that I didn't. I mean, I sort of felt unsafe, but it was more that I think people were just so excited
Yeah.
that, and they're even then there were such hardcore fans.
Yeah. And that's without the internet. That's
Yeah,
without,
Exactly.
you know, I mean, that's a lot to accomplish in a purely analog way, you know. Now, everything is at our fingertips and we can have all this information, everything that we want, but at the time nothing was there unless you put it there, you know. And what they accomplished without any help from the internet, radio, really the music industry is pretty incredible. And
Yeah.
to me, it really shows the value of we're going to just put our heads down, work, have a very strong work ethic, bring it to the people every time, and no shortcuts. So whatever's happened, whatever fads have come and gone, they just have this very solid it's kind of like dried concrete at this point, their foundation, because you can't really beat that, and you can't
Yeah.
really beat word of mouth, and all that kind of stuff, all the old way of getting the message out is still the most durable way, but everyone is looking for shortcuts. But honestly, I think if you want to be a successful musician, you have to get out there and play. And that hasn't changed at all. And again, AI cannot get out there and play. These guys absolutely were like, no, we're a live band. We're lifers,
No
and we're going
prisoners.
to give people this overwhelmingly fantastic experience. And if you keep delivering that, that just, after a while, that just becomes your reputation. And
Yeah.
so people go see you based on that.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, you're bringing the young kids now, who are finally discovering it, or the, sons and daughters of the fans, or even, I guess, grandkids at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty amazing.
I brought my 10-year-old son to see them on the 2017 Book of Souls tour. He was a little bored, I will say, and he liked Queen with Adam Lambert a lot better the next week that we went to. But I was not the only one there with like the next generation.
Right.
And again, I don't think it has anything to do with the music being dumbed down, or and I don't see them ever making, there's a lot of like Beatles for kids
Right.
CDs and stuff. I just don't see Iron Maiden for kids getting made,
Yeah.
but kids are into it, and when they hear it, they're right on board. It takes very little selling for them to get on board with it, because it just instantly has this sound that just draws you right in. If you like it, obviously it has had the opposite effect on some people too. But with Iron Maiden, just what I found generally is people either like it or don't like it right off the bat. And when they like it, they really, really like it. And I'm seeing young people, like, my son's 18 now, and I'm seeing kids his age, even younger, really getting into this band, which is amazing to me, because, when I was in high school, they were a big deal. And I just, at the time, did not ever think they would have this kind of longevity or staying power. I thought the devil was going to abduct my soul if I listened to them.
Did you really?
At first, at first, when I would watch their videos, I was like 12 or 13, and the whole like heavy metal is Satanism thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't take it literally, but there was always this thing in the back of my head of like, but what if it is?
What
But what
if?
if it is? But I mean, I've since learned, all of that was kind of projected upon these bands by panicking religious authorities.
Right.
And these guys, all of them pretty much will say like, no, we were never Satanists. That never happened. We never intended that. I think most of the guys in the band are practicing Christians too. Like Nico is, he's a born again Christian. He talks about falling in love with Jesus. And to me, that kind of directly contradicts the these guys are Satanists claim. But I mean, again, I think once that idea is out there and it sticks, it's really hard to get rid of it. And also, if you have a zombie as your mascot and are sort of presenting that way, I mean, I've heard them deny it, but at the same time, I never saw them do too much work either. There may have been part of them that's like, yeah, let them think that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Sell some more records.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
You've been awesome.
Thank you.
You really explained your book. I mean,
Thank you.
going through it and stuff like that, but you explain it in an eloquent way that people understand, and we don't have to interrupt you with questions and stuff like that. So
It's Iron Maiden at 50. It comes out September 16th.
Yep.
Everywhere that a book is sold. So check it out. And again, it's one, I didn't reiterate it this time, but it's what I call one of the mini coffee table books. So few words, but lots of pictures, many words. It's not all words. So I love the pictures. There's like souvenirs in there. There's the backstage passes and old tickets and a lot of cool memorabilia in there. There's a nice timeline in the middle and the centerfold. So check it out again. One of those perfect Christmas gifts for all your Iron Maiden friends and family. Thank you, Daniel, very much again. As always, appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank you for having me. It's always a blast. And I have 2 more books coming out next year. So hopefully I'll see you guys again.
What were they? What was the first one? Not the
4Ms.
Fab Four.
Oh no, not the Fab Four. No, well, the one that's coming out first in March is a book about the Rush album 2112.
Oh, wow.
Like making of, analysis of, like it's a deep dive just into that album.
Wow.
Which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't limited by, we can do 50 chapters of equal, I was able to, really, really keep going on some of it. And then in the fall of next year, it's going to be about the big 4, as yet untitled.
Metallica.
Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax.
Yeah, very cool.
And hopefully beyond that, there will be more of this type of thing, and I will just keep doing it forever because this is wonderful and this is how I want to live my life.
We'll wait for Taylor Swift at 50.
They're doing it. Quarto is doing a Taylor Swift book right now at this moment.
I apologize, everybody.
Oh no, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, you got to pay the bills.
That's right.
Part 1.
That's
part
right.
2.
Yeah. And thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
as always for having me. I love it. Love you guys.
All right,
Take care,
man.
Daniel.
Thank you so much,
Take
Daniel.
care. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
I just totally remember that night. It was just you and I at that Iron Maiden show in Long Beach in 84. Was that Power Slave, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was just like, it was great and crazy at the same time. You were on stage for, I think, almost every night, welcoming the crowd. And I remember just sitting there, we had our little backstage passes, and then I don't know, somewhere in the show, like Eddie comes walking out and this big giant, Skeletor creature thing. And I'm like, everybody just loses their shit. And it was great. It was crazy, but so fun to see them.
Yeah. I saw them once before that in Chicago. It was the Loop Fest. Loop is a big station out there.
Yeah.
And they used to have this thing, kind of like a Lollapalooza, but every weekend.
Chicago Fest, wasn't it?
Chicago Fest. Yeah. So I went one year, I think it was 82, and I saw like Chicago in Chicago, and I saw Iron Maiden there too. It was pretty insane. Pretty insane.
Yeah.
But a great band. And then, it was kind of cool seeing Bruce Dickinson do some stuff. Like he sang the national anthem at the Kings home opener the other day, and did some stuff, I think, for another team as well. That was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
I always love talking with Daniel. He's really good. Special thanks to Steve Roth for coordinating the interview. Daniel Bukszpan's new book, Iron Maiden at 50, was just released and available at many fine bookstores and music shops.
Check out our show notes on our website. It's rockandrollconfessional.rocks. And there you can find links to some of the subjects talked about in today's show, including links to order the book, sample pages from the book so you can see what it looks like, and many unique Iron Maiden videos and photos that we're going to put up there.
And you do such a great job with that on a daily basis, putting up all the new information. Please support the podcast by subscribing wherever you can, writing a review, simple, follow, and comment on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can share a post with your friends. That's it for this show.
That's right, man. Thank you all for listening. We always appreciate it. Please send this podcast to one of your heavy metal friends, sister, aunt, uncle, grandparents, whoever would listen. We appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
Keep rocking. Woo.